I watched a man tell my CEO she was too old for love, and that was the moment my life changed. I was sitting in my usual spot at Bridgewater Café, laptop open, pretending to work. The place was half full. Soft jazz played in the background. The espresso machine hissed every few minutes. College kids laughed at a table near the door. A couple shared a dessert by the window, leaning in close like they were the only two people in the world. It was a normal Wednesday night. Until she walked in. Diana Walsh. My CEO. The woman who could shut down a room full of executives with one raised eyebrow. At the office, I'd only ever seen her in sharp suits and high heels, her dark hair pinned back, her posture perfect. Tonight she wore jeans, a simple top, and tired eyes. She went straight to a table in the back corner, far from everyone else. No laptop. No folders, no phone in her hand, just her. That alone was strange. She ordered chamomile tea and wrapped both hands around the cup when it arrived, like she needed the warmth to hold herself together. I tried to focus on my work. I'm a cybersecurity specialist at DataCore Solutions. I was supposed to be checking firewall updates, looking for weak spots in our system. It's the kind of detailed work that usually keeps my brain busy. But I kept looking up. I've worked at DataCore for 4 years. I've seen Diana handle angry clients like it was nothing. I've watched her talk to board members about millions of dollars like she was discussing the weather. She's always been steady, composed, in control. Tonight she just looked sad, and somehow smaller than she did in the office. I told myself it was none of my business. She was my CEO, not my friend. I was just the guy from the 5th floor who fixed her malware problem last month. She probably didn't even remember my name. Then a man slid into the chair across from her. He wasn't from our office. I would have remembered. He wore an expensive suit, shiny watch, perfect haircut, that kind of cocky smile that never reaches the eyes. The type my ex-wife used to call interesting. At first I couldn't hear them. The background noise swallowed their words. I tried to be polite and look away. I stared at my screen, checked a log, typed a few commands. Then his voice rose. Let's be honest about your situation. It cut through the music, through the laughter, through everything. My fingers froze on the keyboard. I glanced up. Diana's shoulders were stiff. Her fingers tightened around her teacup. You're 48, the man said, leaning back in his chair like he was explaining something simple. That's too old for any man who's actually worth your time. The cafe kept moving around us, but for me, everything went quiet. Successful men your age, he went on, waving his hand like he was talking about numbers on a chart. They want women in their 30s. Women who still look good in a bikini. Women who can give them kids if they want a second family. You can't compete with that. I watched Diana's face. Her expression was calm, the same one she wore in board meetings. But her knuckles had gone white around that cup. Her jaw was a little too tight. And younger men? He laughed, but there was nothing kind in the sound. Come on, what 30-year-old wants a woman who's almost 50? They want someone to build a life with. Start a family. You're past all that. I wanted to look away. It felt wrong to stare, like I was watching someone get hit and doing nothing. But I couldn't stop. You're stuck in this sad middle ground, he said, standing up. He dropped some cash on the table like he was leaving a tip, not trashing someone's entire sense of worth. Not young enough for the men who matter. Not old enough to stop caring. My advice? Get a cat. Learn to be okay with being alone. Then he walked out, just like that. He tore into her with those words and then left like nothing important had happened. Diana didn't move. She sat there, eyes on her tea, breathing slow and controlled. Around her, the cafe kept going. The espresso machine hissed again. Someone laughed behind me. A spoon clinked against a mug. She lifted the cup to her lips. Her hand shook, just a little. Not enough for most people to notice. I noticed. Because I knew that look. I'd seen it in my own mirror. My ex-wife used to tell me I was too safe, too steady, too boring. She wanted excitement, risk, drama, someone who made her heart race and her life feel like a movie. I was more like a long, quiet podcast about tax law. Being married to you is like eating oatmeal, she told me the day she left. Good for me, but nobody gets excited about it. She moved on to a guy with a motorcycle and big talk about starting a tech company. Last I heard, that didn't work out either. 2 years later, I still sometimes wondered if she was right. If being reliable just meant being forgettable. If being steady meant no one would ever really choose me. Looking at Diana, sitting alone while that man's words lingered in the air, I saw the same story in her eyes. Different people, different pain, same message, you're not enough. I closed my laptop. My heart was pounding. My hands felt a little numb as I stood up. Every logical part of me screamed to sit back down, to mind my own business, to pretend I hadn't heard a thing, just like everyone else was pretending. But I was so tired of staying quiet when people were hurting right in front of me. I walked toward her table. She didn't notice me at first, still staring at that cup like it was the only thing keeping her grounded in the room. Up close, I could see the fine lines at the corners of her eyes, the way her shoulders were just slightly hunched, like she'd been holding herself up for far too long. "Ms. Walsh?" My voice came out softer than I intended. "Are you okay?" She looked up. For a split second, all the walls were gone. I saw raw pain in her eyes, shock. Humiliation, the kind of deep, old hurt that doesn't start with one conversation but gets triggered by it. Then her professional mask slid back into place. "Marcus," she said. I was almost surprised she remembered my name. "I'm fine. Thank you for asking." "No offense," I said quietly, "but you don't look fine." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Way past the safe line for talking to your CEO at a cafe. She could shut me down with one sharp comment. She could make this weird. She could even report me if she wanted to. Instead, she just looked at me, really looked, like she was weighing something. "I suppose I'm not," she said at last. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know what possessed me, but I slid into the chair across from her. No asking if I could sit. No careful, polite distance. It was the most reckless thing I'd done in years. "I heard what that guy said to you." I told her. He was wrong. Diana let out a breath that sounded like it had been stuck in her chest for a long time. "You don't have to do this, Marcus," she said. "I'm used to it." "That," I shook my head. "That's the saddest thing I've heard all week." She blinked, surprised. "You shouldn't have to be used to people treating you like garbage," I said. "That's not normal. That's not okay." Something in her expression softened. The edges of her mask cracked just a little. "Maybe he was just being honest," she said, her eyes dropping back to the tea. "Maybe that's better than people lying about it." "No," I said. "He wasn't being honest. He was being cruel. Big difference." She looked back up at me, studying my face like she was trying to figure out why I cared. "Why do you care, Marcus?" she asked quietly. "You barely know me." "Because I just watched someone hurt you," I said, "and I'm tired of pretending I don't see things like that. And because—" I hesitated, then pushed myself to say it, "because I know what it feels like to be told you're not enough." Something shifted in her eyes. Recognition, connection, the tiniest spark of something I couldn't name yet. "Do you come here often?" she asked, changing the subject, but in a gentle way. "A couple times a week," I said. "My apartment gets too quiet. It's easier to be alone around other people than alone by myself. Does that make sense?" "It makes perfect sense," she said. "I live in a 3-bedroom penthouse and I rattle around in it like a marble in an empty box." We both smiled at that image, small, sad, but real. "What do people who know you call you?" she asked then. "Not Mr. Chin, cybersecurity specialist, just you." "Marcus," I said. "Just Marcus." Quote. She nodded slowly. "I'm Diana," she said. "Not Ms. Walsh, not CEO of DataCore, just Diana." And as I sat there across from my boss at that small cafe table with her tea cooling between us and the echo of that man's cruelty still hanging in the air, I felt the ground shift under my feet. I had no idea that speaking up in that moment would tie our lives together in ways I never imagined. For a second, it felt like we were two strangers making small talk. Then something shifted. "You know your face is on the lobby wall, right?" I said. "Big framed photo, very powerful, slightly terrifying." Diana laughed. Not the polite laugh I'd heard in meetings. A real one. "God, I hate that picture," she said. "They made me smile for 3 hours. My face hurt for days." "You should have picked a real picture," I said. "You, at your desk, looking like you are about to fire someone and sign a $10 million contract at the same time." "I am approachable," she said, pretending to be offended. "You fired 2 people last month," I reminded her. "They were selling client data to competitors," she said. "They earned it." "See?" I said. "Terrifying, in a good way." She shook her head, but the smile stayed on her face. The tension in her shoulders eased just a little. "Tell me something real, Marcus," she said after a moment. "Something that is not about work." I took a breath. "I got divorced 2 years ago," I said. "My wife left me for a guy with a motorcycle and a dream company that never became real." Her eyes softened. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "She said I was too safe," I went on. "Too steady. Too boring. She told me being married to me was like eating oatmeal. Good for you, but nobody gets excited about it." "That is awful," Diana said. "Oatmeal is very useful, and being steady is not a flaw." "She meant it as an insult," I said, "and it worked. I believed her for a long time." "Do you still?" she asked. "Some days," I admitted. "Some days I feel like I am just there, not exciting enough to keep anyone's attention." She looked down at her tea. "I know that feeling," she said quietly. I stayed quiet, giving her space. "My marriage ended 7 years ago," she said. "We could not have children, my medical issues. My husband decided he wanted to explore other options. That is how he put it, like I was a restaurant that did not live up to the reviews." "That is brutal," I said. "He remarried within a year," she went on. "Now he has 2 kids. His wife is 33. Beautiful, healthy, perfect. They send holiday cards every year. Matching outfits. Big smiles. They're perfect family." Her voice shook just a little on the word perfect. "I hate how that still hurts," she said. "I tell myself I am over it. Then something like tonight happens, and it all comes back." "I get it," I said. "My ex posts pictures with her new husband on their boat. Fancy trips, sunsets, captions about living their best life. I pretend I do not look. But I do." We sat there in silence for a moment. Not awkward, just heavy, real. The cafe was starting to empty out. One of the baristas was stacking chairs near the door. Another was wiping down the counter, glancing at us now and then, probably waiting for us to leave. "I should go," Diana said. "Yeah," I replied. "Me too." Neither of us moved. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was trying to read every thought in my head. "Thank you for coming over," she said softly. "For not pretending you did not hear, for saying he was wrong. I cannot remember the last time someone just cared." "You deserve people who care about you," I said. "So do you," she replied. She reached across the table and touched my hand. Just a quick squeeze, fingers warm from the tea. It was a simple gesture. Not romantic at all, but it shot a line of heat up my arm anyway. We walked out together into the cool night. The parking lot was mostly empty now. Streetlights painted long lines across the pavement. She stopped beside a silver hybrid, unlocked it, then turned back to me. "This was unexpected," she said. "Good, unexpected, or weird unexpected?" I asked. "Good," she said. "Definitely good." She rested her hand on the car door, hesitated, then spoke again. "Marcus," she said, "would you maybe want to get coffee sometime? On purpose, I mean, not just because we both happen to be here." My heart tripped. "I would like that," I said. "Tomorrow is a board day," she said. "I will be stuck in meetings. But maybe this weekend. I will email you. We can pick a time." "Sounds good," I said. "I will keep my schedule open. You know, super busy guy, lots of plans." She smiled, full and real. "Good night, Marcus," she said. "Good night, Diana," I answered. I watched her drive away. Then I stood there for a minute in the parking lot, holding my laptop bag, feeling like something big had just started, and I did not know what it was yet. The next few days at work felt different. On the surface, nothing had changed. She was still my CEO. I was still the cybersecurity guy on the 5th floor. We still had status meetings and email threads and emergency patch requests. But there was something in the air now. On Monday morning, I saw her in the lobby. She was wearing one of her dark suits, hair pinned back, every inch the powerful leader from the photo on the wall. She was talking to the CFO when she caught my eye over his shoulder. She gave me a small smile. Private, quick. Most people would have missed it. I did not. In the elevator later, we ended up standing across from each other with 4 other people between us. We did not talk, but when she stepped off on the executive floor, her hand brushed the doorframe, and I realized my pulse was racing. At my desk, I refreshed my email more times than I cared to admit. Nothing personal came. By Wednesday, I convinced myself I had imagined the whole thing. Maybe she regretted asking. Maybe she changed her mind. Maybe, in the harsh light of day, I was just an employee who crossed a line in a cafe. Friday afternoon, my inbox pinged. Subject: coffee. I stared at the screen for a second before opening it. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Bridgewater Café. If you are free, I am free. Diana. I read it 3 times. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I am free. See you there. I hit send before I could overthink it. Saturday morning, I woke up 2 hours before my alarm. I showered, changed my shirt twice, tried to style my hair, ruined it, then messed it up again so it looked natural. I told myself it was just coffee with my boss. I told myself it was not a big deal. My heart did not believe me. I got to Bridgewater Café 15 minutes early. The same soft jazz played. The same barista worked the counter. I ordered 2 drinks without thinking too hard about it. Black coffee, 1 sugar for her. Regular coffee with cream for me. I picked a table by the window where I could see the door and pretended to scroll through my phone. At exactly 10:02, she walked in. This time, I recognized her right away, even without the suit. Jeans again, light blue jacket, hair down around her shoulders, softer and less controlled than at work. She scanned the room, saw me, and her face lit up in a way I had never seen at the office. "You remembered my order," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. "You are a creature of habit," I said. "Chamomile at night, black coffee with 1 sugar in the morning. I pay attention." "Good quality for a cybersecurity guy," she said. "And for a friend." The word friend hit me in the chest in a strange way, warm and heavy at the same time. For the next 2 hours we talked, not about server logs or client accounts or quarterly reports. About her childhood, about mine, about how she grew up as the youngest of 4, always trying to prove herself. About parents who expected perfection, about feeling like her only value came from how much she achieved. About how she built DataCore from 8 people in a rented office to 400 in 6 cities. About how, somewhere along the way, the company became her identity because she did not know who she was outside of it. I told her about my small hometown. About my parents who celebrated every little success like it was huge. About feeling like I was letting them down when my marriage ended. About the empty apartment that still did not feel like home. The more we talked, the more something quiet and steady grew between us. A connection. An understanding. A sense that we were both more than the stories other people had told about us. As I watched her push her coffee cup back and forth between her hands, eyes bright and open in the morning light, one thought kept circling in my mind. I had walked over to her table that night because I could not stay silent. Now, I was starting to realize that one choice might change far more than just a bad evening in a cafe. 3 weeks after that coffee, my phone rang at 3 in the morning and her name lit up the screen. I was in the security operations center, alone with the glow of monitors and the hum of servers. Night shift. Log reviews. Quiet work. Then every alarm started screaming at once. Red alerts flashed across the screens. Access points lit up in places they should not be. We were under attack, a serious one. My fingers were already flying over the keyboard when my phone buzzed. I glanced down. "Diana," I picked up. "How bad is it?" she asked. No hello, no small talk. just raw fear under a controlled voice. "Bad," I said. "Someone got through the first firewall and into the outer network. They are trying to reach our client database. 40,000 companies trust us with their data, financial records, trade secrets, sensitive information. If someone got in and took even a piece of it, we were done." "What do you need?" she asked. "Time," I said. "Maybe 18 hours. And coffee. A lot of coffee." "I am on my way," she said, and hung up. I dove back into the system. I cut off external access where I could. I isolated the infected servers, traced the attack routes, built temporary walls while I worked on stronger ones. My eyes burned, my fingers cramped, but I didn't stop. 20 minutes later, the door to the operations center opened. Diana walked in wearing sweatpants, a Datacore t-shirt, and sneakers. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. No makeup, no armor, just her. She carried a thermos of coffee and a bag of breakfast sandwiches. "You were not kidding about alarms," she said, glancing at the screens. "This is the fun part," I said. "Everything before this was just warm up." She snorted softly and set the coffee down next to me. "You work," she said. "I will deal with the people." And there were a lot of people. By 6 in the morning, executives started showing up. Faces pale, voices tight. The board members called in from different time zones. Clients sent panicked emails. Investors wanted answers. Through the glass wall, I could see Diana pacing as she talked on the phone, then sitting in the conference room with a group of scared, angry men in suits. She moved between them and us like a shield, keeping their fear out of the room where I was trying to think. Every now and then she slipped into the operations center with more coffee or water. "Status?" she would ask. "They are trying different entry points now," I would say. "Someone smart is behind this." "Can you stop them?" she asked the first time. "I am trying," I answered, and she nodded like that was enough. Around noon, she came in with lunch. "You need to eat something, Marcus," she said. "Humans require food, even cybersecurity wizards." "I can't stop," I said. "They are testing for weak spots every minute." "Then eat while you type," she said. "I will hold the sandwich." She actually unwrapped a sandwich and held it near my mouth like I was a kid. I laughed and took a bite without looking away from the screen. "You realize this is not in your CEO job description, right?" I said with a full mouth. "Crisis management covers a lot of things," she replied. By late afternoon, I had been awake almost 30 hours. My head hurt. My shoulders ached. But the attack kept coming. It was coordinated, smart, relentless. This was not some random hacker in a basement. It felt bigger, organized, maybe even state level. At 7 that evening, she came in again and closed the door behind her. Her face looked more tired than I had ever seen it. "The board is freaking out," she said quietly. "They want to bring in another security firm, someone from outside." I stopped typing and turned in my chair. "That would be a mistake," I said. "Anyone new would need days to learn our system. We would lose everything we have done today. They will walk right through us." "I told them that," she said. "They are scared. When people are scared, they stop listening to logic." "What do you want me to do?" I asked. She held my gaze. "Keep going," she said. "I will deal with them. Marcus, I trust you. Completely." Those words hit me like a shot of adrenaline. Trust. Most people say it like a buzzword. She said it like a promise. She left, and I turned back to the screens, pushing harder, digging deeper. I traced the attacks, cut off paths, set traps, built new barriers. Hours blurred together. My world shrank down to code, logs, traffic, patterns. At 10 that night, something finally shifted. I found their main entry script, buried under layers of distraction. I cut it off, locked it down, and closed the last open gap I could find. Traffic slowed. The red alerts dropped, one by one, until the room was lit by steady green lights. I waited 5 long minutes. No new attempts, no new alarms. I leaned back and let out a breath I felt like I had been holding all day. "It is done," I whispered to myself. The door opened. Diana stood there, eyes wide, like she had felt the change too. "Is it over?" she asked. "We are secure," I said. "They are out. All systems are clean and running. Data is safe." For a second, she just stared at me. Then she crossed the room in 3 quick steps and wrapped her arms around me. She hugged me so tightly I could feel her heartbeat pounding against my chest. "You saved us," she said into my shoulder. "Do you understand that? You saved our clients, our company, everything." "I was just doing my job," I said. My voice came out hoarse. She pulled back enough to look at me. "No," she said firmly. "You did more than your job. You did more than anyone else could have done tonight." Her hands were still on my shoulders. We were standing close. Too close for boss and employee, maybe. Her eyes were glassy with unshed tears, but her mouth was curved in this soft, proud smile. My heart was beating way too fast. Before I could think of anything else to say, her expression changed. Some of the intensity faded, replaced by exhaustion. "You look like you are about to fall over," she said. "When was the last time you slept?" "2 nights ago," I said. "I think, quote, that is not healthy," she replied. "Come home with me." My brain stalled. "Home?" I repeated. "To my place," she said. "You need a shower and real food, and a bed that is not a broken office chair. I do not want to be alone tonight either." Not after all of this. She must have seen something flicker across my face, because she added quickly, "No pressure, nothing weird, just sleep, I promise. I do not want to go back to that big, empty place and sit there by myself after a day like this." I thought about my own apartment, about walking in, alone, after carrying all this stress and fear around for so long, about the silence. "Okay," I said. "Yeah. I will come." We drove in her car because she said I was too tired to drive, and she was right. City lights flashed past the windows. My body felt like it weighed 100 pounds. She drove with one hand on the wheel, the other holding a travel mug of coffee. Her building was downtown, tall and made of glass. We took the elevator to the 20th floor. My ears popped on the way up. When she opened the door, I stepped into a space that looked like something from a magazine. Tall windows from floor to ceiling, city lights below like a sea of stars, clean lines, polished surfaces, art on the walls instead of empty hooks. It was beautiful and cold in a way. Not the temperature, the feeling. "Welcome to the glass box," she said with a tired smile. "Make yourself at home, or at least try." She pointed toward a hallway. "Bathroom is down there," she said. "Guest room is on the right, but you are not making it that far without falling over. Take a shower. I will order food." The hot water hit me and I almost sank to the floor. A whole day of fear and focus washed down the drain. When I came back out in the clean t-shirt and sweats she had found from some old box, food was waiting on the coffee table. We sat on the couch, eating in silence at first, both too tired for deep conversation. The city lights glowed through the windows. I could see our office building in the distance, just another box of light in the skyline. "You know the board is going to spin this," she said quietly after a while. "They will say we were never really in danger. They will claim they had everything under control." "I know," I said. "But I know what happened," she added. "I know who stayed up for 20 hours straight and fought for this company when everyone else was panicking. I will not forget that." I did not know what to say to that, so I just nodded. At some point, I must have fallen asleep on the couch. When I woke up, a soft gray light was slipping around the edges of the curtains. There was a blanket over me that had not been there before. My neck hurt from the weird angle, but the rest of me felt heavy and relaxed in a way it had not in months. Diana was asleep in the armchair nearby, still in her sweatpants and t-shirt, head tilted to the side, arms crossed loosely over her chest. It looked like she had tried to stay awake and watch over me, and lost the battle. I watched her for a moment, the early morning light touching her face. Her features were softer in sleep, less guarded. The woman who ran board meetings and negotiated contracts was gone. This was just Diana, a human being who carried far too much on her shoulders most days. Something in my chest squeezed. I could have stayed in that moment forever, but the alarm on her phone buzzed, making both of us jump. She blinked awake, looked at me on the couch, at the blanket, and gave a small, sheepish smile. "Sorry," she said. "I was supposed to wake you up an hour ago." I may have fallen asleep on the job. "For once," I said, "I am not complaining about someone missing an alarm." She laughed softly, then grew serious. "Marcus," she said, "I know things are complicated. I know what people will say if they ever find out how close we have become. But I need you to know something." My stomach tightened. "What?" I asked. "You matter to me," she said simply. "Not just as an employee or a brilliant security specialist. As a person. As the man who sat at my table in a cafe when nobody else did." The room felt suddenly very small. "You matter to me too," I said. And I knew, sitting there on her couch in borrowed clothes, that whatever line had existed between us was not simple anymore. It was tangled and bright and dangerous. And I also knew I was not sure I wanted to step back from it. I did not plan to fall in love with my CEO. I definitely did not plan to fight a boardroom full of powerful people to help her keep the company she built. But life did not care about my plans. A few weeks after the cyber attack, things at work seemed calm on the surface. Systems were stable. Clients were happy. The board sent out a statement praising our strong security response. Then Diana called me into her office late one afternoon. Her blinds were closed. Her jacket was off. Her hair looked like she had been running her hands through it for hours. "The board wants to force me out," she said. The words hit me like a punch. "What?" I said. "Why, after everything you just did?" "They say I have lost my edge," she replied. "That we need younger leadership, fresh vision, a new face for the company." My chest burned. "That is nonsense," I said. "The numbers say the opposite." "They do not care about numbers right now," she said. "They care about image, about looking young and exciting for the market." She tried to laugh, but it came out flat. "Apparently 48 is too old to lead the company I started." Rage rose in me, sharp and hot. It reminded me of that man in the cafe, waving his hand, saying she was too old for the men who mattered. "They are doing the same thing he did," I said, just with nicer words and expensive suits. She met my eyes. "Help me prove them wrong," she said. "Help me build a case they cannot ignore. You know the data better than anyone." "We have a board meeting tomorrow morning," she added, 9 o'clock. "That gives us less than 18 hours." "I have worked with worse deadlines," I said. "Let's do it." We stayed in her office all night. I pulled every report I could find. Revenue growth, client retention, product launches, security wins, industry awards, every contract she had brought in. Every time she had saved a client account, every quarter where the company had beaten projections, she turned it into a story. Not a brag, a clear, honest picture of what she had done. At midnight, she ordered food. We forgot to eat it. At 3 in the morning, she nodded off at her desk for a minute, her head dropping forward. I reached over and gently pushed a glass of water toward her. "Hey," I said softly, "no passing out on me, we have a board to crush." She smiled through her exhaustion. "You are a terrible employee," she said. "You talk to your CEO like that." "Maybe your CEO needs someone who tells her the truth," I said. We finished the last slide as the sky outside her window started to lighten. "This is amazing," she said, scrolling through the deck. "How did you pull all this together?" "You did all the work," I said. "I just stacked the proof in one place." She turned to me and something in her eyes changed. The office was quiet. The world felt far away. "Marcus," she said, "I need to tell you something before we walk into that room." My heart started pounding. "Okay," I said. "Ever since that night at Bridgewater Café, I have been thinking about you differently," she said. "Not as an employee, not as someone who reports to me, as a man who saw me when I felt invisible." I swallowed. "Diana," I started, but she held up a hand. "I know this is messy," she said. "I know there is an age difference and a power difference. and 1,000 reasons to stay quiet. But I am tired of living my life based on fear. I am tired of letting other people decide when I am too old, too much, not enough. She took a breath. When I am with you, I do not feel too anything, she said. I feel like exactly myself, and that feels rare and terrifying and wonderful. My chest felt tight. I am in love with you, I said. The words came out before I could stop them. Clear, simple, true. Her eyes widened. You are? She whispered. I have been trying not to be, I said. Because you are my boss, and I like my job, and I like not getting sued. But I cannot keep pretending. I think about you when I wake up. I listen for your voice in the halls. I feel better when I know you are in the building. I am in love with you, Diana. She stared at me, breathing a little faster. This could ruin your career, she said. People will talk. They will judge. It will not be fair. I do not care what they say, I said. I care about us doing things the right way. But I am not going to lie about how I feel just to make small minds comfortable. She smiled then. A slow, soft smile that reached all the way to her eyes. Come here, she said. I crossed the room. She reached up and put her hand on my cheek. Then she kissed me. It was gentle at first. Careful. Warm. A question and an answer at the same time. My hands went to her waist. She pulled me closer. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The board meeting. The company. The risk. The rules. Then she pulled back, breathing slightly harder. Okay, she said. Now we go and fight for this company. And for you, I added. And for me, she agreed. We walked into the boardroom together at 9 on the dot. The men around the table looked tired and important. Papers were stacked neatly. Laptops were open. The chairman, Robert Mitchell, cleared his throat. Diana, he said. We appreciate your time. We want to discuss the future leadership of DataCore. We will, she said. But first, you are going to look at something. She plugged in the laptop and started the presentation. For 40 minutes, she laid out the truth. Revenue up, client loss down, new products launched, security wins, industry respect, jobs created, offices opened, all under her leadership. I watched their faces change. One by one. Doubt gave way to calculation. Calculation gave way to unease. Facts have a way of cutting through nice-sounding lies. When she finished, she closed the laptop and folded her hands. This is what I have done for this company, she said calmly. Not speculation, not opinion. Proof. If your decision to replace me is not based on performance, then you need to ask yourselves what it is based on. The silence in the room was thick. Finally, the chairman spoke. Ms. Walsh, he said, it appears we may have been hasty in our earlier thoughts. Quote, you were wrong, she said. Please say what you mean. He shifted in his chair. We were wrong, he said. You are still the right person to lead DataCore. And my CFO, she asked. You wanted to push her out too. We will reconsider that, he said. No, Diana replied. You will keep her, or you can look for a new CEO and a new CFO at the same time. Your choice. They backed down. One by one, the men who had been ready to replace her with someone younger nodded and muttered phrases like, of course, and you are right. When the meeting ended, everyone filed out, except the two of us. The door closed. Diana leaned back against the table, then started laughing. Not the light laugh from before, a deep, honest laugh, full of relief and disbelief. We did it, she said. We actually did it. You did it, I said. I just played with spreadsheets. She stepped close. Marcus, she said, her voice low, we did this together. She kissed me again, quick this time, but the message was clear. We were in this together. Work, life, all of it. Of course, nothing is ever that simple. 3 days later, we sat in HR. Mrs. Patterson, the head of human resources, listened while we explained. We told her about our relationship, about our feelings, about wanting to do everything right, even if it was hard. Company policy is clear, she said. Direct romantic relationships between a manager and a direct report are not allowed. I understand, Diana said. So we changed the reporting structure. We had already talked about it, planned it. Mrs. Patterson looked at us over her glasses. "You know, even if we make that change," she said, "people will talk. There will be gossip, pushback. Some will assume every promotion is favoritism. Some will think you are having a midlife crisis. Some will call it unprofessional." "Let them," Diana said calmly. "We are telling you the truth. We are willing to follow every rule. We are not going to hide." The change went through that same week. I started reporting to our Chief Technology Officer, Daniel. He treated me exactly the same as before, maybe pushed me harder. I appreciated that. The gossip started almost right away. Whispers in the break room. Conversations that stopped when I walked in. Someone left an anonymous note on my desk that said, "Sleeping your way up, huh?" I crumpled it and threw it out. Some nights, the noise got to us. Diana would come home tight-jawed, angry, and tired. I would stare at my ceiling in my apartment and wonder if we had made a huge mistake. But then we would see each other. We would sit at her kitchen counter, eating takeout, talking about our day, about the rumors, about the unfairness, about how we would answer questions if they came. And every time, we came back to the same point. We were not cheating. We were not hiding. We were not breaking rules. We had moved reporting lines. We had told HR. We were doing everything by the book. If people wanted to judge us for loving each other, that was their problem. One big thing helped change the conversation. Another attack came. This time, I stopped it in minutes. The client wrote a formal letter to the board, praising me by name. Other companies asked for me specifically. Work that had nothing to do with my relationship spoke louder than whispers. People still talked, but they also respected what I could do. 6 months after that night in the cafe, I was at Diana's place more often than I was at home. My toothbrush lived in her bathroom. My jacket hung on her hook. One Sunday morning, she came into the kitchen while I was making coffee and said very calmly, "Why are we paying 2 rents?" I paused. "Do you mean what I think you mean?" I asked. "Move in with me," she said. "Officially, not just clothes in a bag. Bring your books, your pictures, your life." I moved in that month. Her glass, cold apartment changed slowly. My old, worn-out couch blanket ended up on her perfect leather sofa. My framed photos of city streets and shorelines went on the walls. Her 3-bedroom penthouse stopped feeling like a museum and started feeling like a home. 1 year after the cafe, I bought a ring. I planned a big proposal. Fancy restaurant, rooftop, live music. A speech about how she had changed my life. Instead, it happened on the couch. We were watching some documentary about cyber threats, both in sweats, both half paying attention. During a quiet part, she turned to me. "I have been thinking," she said. "I want to marry you." I stared at her. "You do?" I said, "because that is supposed to be my line." I pulled the ring out of my pocket. Her eyes went wide and filled with tears at the same time. "You were going to propose?" she said. "I am proposing," I said. I slid off the couch onto one knee right there on the living room rug. "Diana," I said, "you are the strongest, smartest, most stubborn woman I know. You fight for what you believe in. You work harder than anyone. You see me as more than safe or boring. You make me feel like I am enough. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" She was crying and laughing and nodding all at once. "Yes," she said. "Of course, yes." The wedding was small, a garden outside the city, 50 people, close friends, family, no press, no clients, no investors. Just people who had seen us through everything. Daniel, my boss, married us. My parents sat in the front row. Her siblings cried when she walked down the path. In her vows, she said, "I spent years believing that my time for love was over, that I was too busy, too old, too used up by work and life and grief." Then, one night in a cafe, someone refused to walk past my table. He saw me, not as a title or a failure, but as a person, and that changed everything. In mine, I said, "I spent years believing I was only good enough to be safe, to be the steady one in the background while other people chased excitement." Then I watched a man try to tear down a woman I respected. And for once, I did not stay quiet. I chose to speak. I chose to care. That one choice brought me here. We danced as the sun went down. Her head rested on my shoulder. Her hand was warm in mine. "Thank you for coming to my table that night," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me sit down," I whispered back. Sometimes, people still talk. They still make comments about the age difference, about the fact that she was my boss once, about office romance and power and risk. We do not give those people our energy. We know the truth. We went to HR. We shifted roles. We followed the rules. We fought for our jobs and for each other. We built something real on purpose, not by accident. And it all started because I decided I could not stay silent and watch someone be shamed for something as simple as her age. I thought I was just standing up for a stranger in a cafe. I was really standing up for the rest of my life.